Good morning, Moray and Rabotai. We are continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Hilchot Tefillin, and we have started Siman Lamed Zayin. So we studied Sif Bet, the mitzvatam liyot alav kol hayom. The mitzvah of Tefillin is really to be on you the whole day. Really, the Biur Halacha Chafetz Chaim over here in the first of the Biur Halachas on Siman Lamed Zayin discusses whether or not from the Torah itself the mitzvah is to have them the entire day, or maybe from the Torah 1 second you put it on and that would suffice, that would be enough, and the rest of it, of course, every second you're still gaining a mitzvah, but not a necessity to put them the entire day. And he brings, really, this is a safek of the Pri Megadim, and he brings at the end from the Sefer Yeshua Yaakov that the mitzvah of tefillin is to have them the entire day. Chacham Obadia also brings this in a tshuva, and he writes that the mitzvah, really, you fulfill the minimum requirement of the mitzvah with having them just one moment on you, but also every moment that you have it extra is a mitzvah midoraita as well. In other words, you're getting mitzvah doraita every second that you have them. It's not like lula, it's not like a mitzvah that you did it, you finished it, and the extra is just extra. Every second you're still doing a mitzvah doraita, but the minimum requirement you have already done with 1 second. This is again Chacham Obadia in Chelek Gimel of Yabia Omer in Yeridea Siman Yud Zayin. Very interesting. One of the people who I had school of learning with many years ago, 1998, 99, in Austria, his father was the only one that could get a very small pair of tefillin in Auschwitz. It's the time that he spent in Auschwitz. Said every morning 200 people would risk their lives to come to his bunker, and that was the policy was, if you were seen outside the curfew, if you're seen on the campus, you'd be shot dead on the spot without asking any questions. So come crawling, coming, hiding, and they would stand in line, put on tefillin, the minimum requirement, just putting it, tying it on your arm, not even having time for the wraps around the arm. Just bring it to the middle finger, putting the tefillin shel rosh, wrapping on the finger, saying Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad Baruch Shem, giving it to the next guy. So that's the minimum mitzvah. According to Chacham Obadia, they already did the mitzvah. Of course, that according to others, even according to the Yeshua Yaakov, that would be a tremendous thing. I remember him telling me that his father would always say, I wish one more time in my life I should have the feeling of joy that I experienced every day, putting tefillin on for 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds. It's something that you appreciate more when you don't have it. And we mentioned also yesterday that it's a mitzvah to learn with tefillin after the davening. The Ben Ish Chai emphasizes this very strongly, the Chaim as well. They both write that the Chatchila person should be learning with the tefillin of Rabbeinu Tam. Ben Ish Chai writes this in Parashat Hayesara, that the person is zocheh to the neshama yetera in the zchut of learning with the tefillin of Rabbeinu Tam, the shloshet chelkei neshama, the nefesh, ruach, and neshama that we have, which are parts of the neshama. Neshama has 5 parts of nefesh, ruach, neshama, haya, and yechida. Those 3, you get them in their complete state when a person learns with the tefillin of Rabbeinu Tam. And even if a person has learned before tefillah, let's say someone has to go run for carpool or for business, whatever it is that they have to run after tefillah, can they learn before tefillah, come a little bit earlier and learn with tefillin prior to that tefillah? So Rabbi Chaim Palaji writes that you should still try to learn even a few minutes, a little bit after tefillah, al pi sod, but of course that ma'ala that the Ish Chai speaks about, you get it even if you learn with tefillin prior to your tefillah. Nasif Gimel Maran writes, Katana yodea lishmor tefillin a minor, a little boy that knows how to keep the tefillin b'tahara, which means that he's not going to come to sleep with them, he's not going to come to pass gas with them, with having tefillin on. And the Ramah adds that he's not going to run to the bathroom with the tefillin and so on. Hayav, he is Hayav Aviv liknot lo tefillin lechanecho. The father has to buy tefillin for him to start training him in the mitzvah. Mitzvah of chinuch really starts from the age that they are fit for being trained for the tefillin, as the Mishnah says this in, again, Masechet Sukkah. The Gemara brings this in Daf Membet already in Masechet Sukkah, that the katan that knows how to keep to wrap tzitzit, and you buy him a tzitzit, and they keep their body clean and respectful for tefillin, then is the time that you buy them a tefillin and you start training them. But says the Mishna Berurah, prior to that, you're not allowed to get tefillin for him. You're not allowed to train him in tefillin, because he's not going to be, of course, respecting the love chinuchu, and it's not considered a mitzvah of chinuch. Now, mitzvah of chinuch by itself is a very complicated thing, whether or not the mitzvah of chinuch is on the father or the mitzvah of chinuch is on the child himself. In other words, when we say chinuch, what does that exactly mean? Is the mitzvah derabanan for the father to train the son, or is it a mitzvah for the child himself to start, even though that he's not bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, but they have to start earlier on in a rabbinic level to do the mitzvot until they become of age that they're going to be doing it properly. What that exactly is machloket rishonim by itself. But be that as it may, let's imagine for our discussion's sake that it's the mitzvah on the father to see to it that the children are doing the mitzvot. Mitzvah of chinuch, generally speaking, that's how we understand it. But it's not chinuch if you do it too early. In fact, I always say this applies to also many other areas of Jewish life. Bringing them to shul is one of the big ones, right? People push the kids to come to shul early when they're still 3, 4 years old, 5 years old, even some kids, 6 years old. They're not ready yet, some kids. They don't have the understanding of coming to a makom kadosh for tefillah. It's mitzvah not to bring them. Adarabah. Why? I always say, the Shlomo Melech says, Chanoch lenar al pi darko, gam ki azkin lo yasur mimena. Train your kids when they're young, al pi darko, and the way you train them, gam ki azkin, when they become old, lo yasur mimena. They're not going to deviate from that path that you have put them on, the training that you have given them. So if you train them, bring them to shul, and they're running around and yelling, and you're just giving them candies and trying to basically engage them, babysit them, then you're giving them that mindset that the shul is a place for running around. They lose the kavod of Bet Knesset. Versus if you say, well, you're ready, then you could come sit next to Abba for half an hour without speaking and just looking in the Siddur and reading, then we're going to take you to shul, and it's something that they look forward to become man enough, or a woman, a girl, big girl, to be able to come to shul and respect the shul. That becomes something they look forward to. Then when they do come, it's something that they respect and they will keep to themselves. So I always say this about brachot as well. If it was up to me, the schools always beat me to it, but it's up to me. I would not teach my kids to say brachot until they could fathom the concept of thanking for something that you get. The little kid does not appreciate the concept of appreciation. You say thank you, right? Say thank you, and they run away. They mean nothing, right? But at some point, when they grow up, they can understand what it means to appreciate something that someone owned and is giving it to you, right? By the way, for that, I don't want this to turn into a chinuch seminar, but the same thing goes with you have to share. Sharing is caring. Not necessarily a good thing to push upon the kids, because you're taking away their sense of ownership. They have to understand, and then they're not going to respect other people's sense of ownership because you have to share with me. No, I don't have to share with you. It's my thing. It belongs to me. It's sometimes healthy to have a certain sense of ownership that this is yours. You don't have to share it, but it is amazing if you get to see other people's needs and you're adult enough to be able to share yours with other people. You don't have to though. Then when they do share it, it's from their ratzon, not a fake chinuch that you have to just give what's yours to other people, and which also means to them in their selfish mind, they're translated that you have to give all of yours to me, right? Because otherwise you're a hypocrite. So you see how this could be twisted, right? But again, this is all part of thinking through the chinuch. It's not necessarily a good thing to rush them into the mitzvot of saying a bracha, because they don't have the concept. And then you wonder why from birth, FFBs, they say bracha, and you wonder if they even said the bracha, right? I always say that the taller you are, the longer your bracha takes, because the bracha always takes as long as it takes for you to pick this up and make it to your mouth, right? That's how it is. That's how it is. So it's embarrassing, but that's us, the from birth people. That's how it is. Ba'alet Tshuva, they daven, you think Shekhinah is in front of them, mamash. It's embarrassing, but you could almost see who is Ba'al Tshuva from the way they say bracha and they daven. Everyone should daven like that. The reason that they are like that is because they, in adulthood, they have reached the truth, and they appreciate every word that they're connecting with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? So the same thing is with the mitzvot as well. If you started too early, too young, sometimes you are making it mitzvat anashim melumada, that they're not going to appreciate the core concept of the mitzvot in the appreciation of the connection that you have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, thereby by saying the bracha, by saying the tefillah, by putting on tzitzit and tefillin and so on. So therefore, younger than that, says the Mishna Berurah, says Chafetz Chaim, it is not a mitzvah. It's not a mitzvah of chinuch. The Chafetz Chaim adds to that you cannot give chinuch for tefillin until the point that he knows to check himself when they use the facilities to make sure that they don't have so'ah bepi atabat, that no dirtiness is left. Not every kid that's potty trained, so to speak, is clean on their own without someone else helping them. And so'ah bepi atabat, it's asur to daven, it's asur to have tefillin on. So that's something that you have to be careful in as well. Now, the minhag is not necessarily like the Shulchan Aruch over here. Chacham ben Zion Rabbi Shaul writes that the minhag is 9, 10 years old. That's when you should start. And Chacham Ovadia Yosef writes that you do it a year before, 2 years maximum before the bar mitzvah. And again, many kehilot, they have the Sfaradim, they have the minhag that they do it even a few months before, because that's sufficient. You don't have to give a whole lot of chinuch for tefillin. A few months before already is sufficient, for the kid to learn how to put on tefillin. Again, the reason you need chinuch is to be careful, not for it to move around. It takes a good few weeks until you understand how to wrap and tighten it, that it should not be unraveling. Sometimes you do too tight, and then 5 minutes later you see that you feel like your arm is falling off because you cut all the blood circulation to your hand by doing it too hard. And then you do it a little bit looser, and 5 minutes later all of them are unraveling, coming down to your hand. So it takes a certain balance to understand how tight to do it. That's not too tight, and it's not unraveling, it's not moving on top over here that would make it kasur. And same with the head. And also a certain basic level of chinuch, of not talking with tefillin, divrei chol, and all the things that goes with that. All of those take a bunch of months. Again, Chacham says year or two before. Rabbi Shlomo says age 9, 10, and the minhag has evolved that many people do it just a few months prior to the bar mitzvah. But again, you need some period of time, some serious period of time that they're doing tefillin every day, that they get used to wrapping it up quickly, efficiently, and properly without it being too tight or unravel and be too loose. And that's the mitzvah of chinuch for tefillin. Yesh omrim, the high katan, says the Ramah, dafka shehu ben 13 shanim v'yom echad v'chen na'agu be'en hashana. So Ramah over here steps in, and Ramah says there are those who say that there's no mitzvah of chinuch prior to the bar mitzvah. The age of start basically is from 13 years and 1 day, which the person is already considered a bar mitzvah. This is the shita known as the shita of the Baal HaItur, one of the later Rishonim, and the Ramah says that is our minhag, the Ashkenazi minhag, that they don't do it necessarily earlier on. So the Chanecho, the Mishna Berurah writes, b'mitzvat hanachatan, you have to teach them how to put them on, and also to teach them the halachot that are needed for tefillin. So it's not just the act of putting on tefillin that the father has to teach the kid, but also the basic halachot, which is another thing that kind of falls in the cracks. I've always wanted, and maybe someone here is going to help make this happen in reality. I've always wanted to make like a laminated page of the most basic halachot of tefillin that are needed, and give it to every bar mitzvah bachur. They should know. Even passing gas, which is clear in the Gemara, clear in the Shulchan Aruch, is asur, absolutely asur. Many people don't know. I mean, I could tell you that it's not embarrassing really, but it's like funny to talk about this. But I was davening next to somebody that was well into his 60s maybe, and a long beard and coat and everything is out from a certain Hasidut, or a certain sect of Hasidut. And he clearly did not know this halakha, because constantly this was an issue with him. And again, if you don't learn it, there's no way for you to know it. But a bar mitzvah bachor is not just the act of putting on tefillin that you have to know, but you have to know the basic halachot of the placement of the tefillin and what you cannot do with tefillin, and the wraps, and making sure that the paint does not go off, and the corners, and all of it could be done really in one page, concise for the bar mitzvah bachurim to know, because again, a lot of times the fathers don't know the halacha themselves well to be able to teach it to the kids, and that's part and parcel of teaching the child, not just reading the parasha that's important and buying them expensive tefillin, but really knowing the halachot of tefillin is part and parcel of it as well. And Mishna Berurah says, וקודם לכן אין מניחו ללבוש תפילין אפילו אם ירצה, בוודאי אינו יודע לשמור תפילין. Right? That this is only when the Ramah says that the mitzvah is only to do it when they are 13 and 1 day. The reason is, beforehand you don't let them do it, and that's Ashkenazim nowadays. They don't do it beforehand at all. And my son, when he started putting on tefillin, they start wearing hat in the yeshiva world and so on. So his friends were all surprised. A few months before already, he was putting on tefillin in the yeshiva, davening shacharit for them, because by them, it's the bo bayom. They start doing it really publicly on the day of. And the Mishna Berurah writes, "V'kodem lachen." Before that, en manichol lilbosh tefillin. The father does not allow the son to wear tefillin, even if he wants to. Because for sure he doesn't know how to keep the tefillin clean. I guess the Sfaradim have more faith to their child, that they could know and they could learn and they could do properly. But again, this is chilukei minhagim, as we mentioned before. Now, the part of the mitzvah of chinuch for tefillin, Chacham Obadia writes that you have to teach them to say the bracha on the halacha of tefillin as well. Again, with the details of you put it with one bracha, you cannot talk in between. If you talk, you have to say second bracha, and all those details of the bracha that we have discussed in prior classes. That also is part of the chinuch, says Chacham Obadia, and the language of the Shulchan Aruch, that the father is mechuyav to do the chinuch, is mashma over here. The Stechemet was a tremendous gaon. Chaim Chizkiyahu Medini. He was the first of the encyclopedic works on. We have a copy. We just had a copy within the table here on the entire Torah, all the halachot of Torah for Arbach and Tishuk Haruch. He was in Izmir about 150 years ago. So, and Sdei Chemed, 20 years ago, Sdei Chemed wrote a tremendous work. There's a very fascinating story in regards to how he became the Gaon, the tremendous Gaon that he was, remembering everything, that literally without computers, without any modern day tools, he wrote the first encyclopedic work of halacha in a tremendous way. I mean, it's very hard to use it because it's all over the place. But he writes that Sdei Chemed writes that the language of the Shulchan Aruch over here indicates, like those Rishonim who hold the mitzvah of chinuch is on the father, not on the child. Remember in the beginning we mentioned that it's machloket Rishonim who has the mitzvah of chinuch. So the Chemed over here says that the chiyuv of chinuch is mutal al ha'av, is upon the father, not upon the child himself, and that is really our seif. B'ezrat Hashem will start the next Siman, Siman Lamed Het, in the days to come. Mishna Berurah. Hananiah ben Achashia ben Atzach, Mishna Berurah, Zakodat Yisrael, V'yichach Shemar El Mitzvot. Ne'emar Adonai Hafetz, L'man Sidcho Yekir.